Hello and welcome to A Mindful Moment. I'm Justin Epstein, author of the top-selling book Super You and minister of the Unity Center of New York City. We are continuing with our study of Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, and we've talked about in the last Mindful Moment how the mind is constantly going. It's meant to be used as a tool. We use it and then we put it down and we live in the present moment and enjoy the present moment. But instead, what happens is the mind is constantly thinking, and it's constantly, and it's, as Tolle points out, it's often, it's 80 to 90% of most people's thinking is repetitive and useless. And it's dysfunctional because it's often negative and harmful. And he says, just watch yourself and see what you see. And I think that's a really great challenge and a great practice for us, really. So then the question is, why should we be addicted to thinking? Because he says that compulsive thinking is an addiction, that we're actually addicted to all this thinking going on. He says, what characterizes an addiction? Quite simply this: you no longer feel that you have the choice to stop. It seems stronger than you. It also gives you a false sense of pleasure that invariably turns into pain. So this constant thinking is something that we're addicted to because we don't realize that we can stop it. So then the question, well, why should we be addicted to thinking? Because you're identified with it, which means that you derive your sense of self from the content and activity of your mind. We're identified with it. We think that we are our thoughts. We are the images we hold about ourselves. We are all the things that we think is us. That's what he's saying. We're identified with it. I am my thinking. My sense of who I am is in my thinking. He says, because you believe that you would cease to be if you stopped thinking. Interesting, right? We identify with our thinking, and if we stop thinking, we would cease to be. That's the fear. As you grow up, you form a mental image of who you are, based on your personal and cultural conditioning. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I was an athlete, I was an average student in high school, I was liked, I was disliked, my parents were this way, so-and-so was mean to me. I'm thinking that those are the kinds of images that we get of ourselves, and a lot of other ones. He says, we may call this phantom self the ego. It consists of mind activity and can only be kept going through constant thinking. So he calls this the ego. It exists only because we keep thinking. The term ego means different things to different people, but when I use it here, it means a false self created by unconscious identification with the mind. So all this identification with our thinking, what we think about ourselves, what we're thinking about, this constant thought going on in our head, is the ego. That's how he looks at it, as the ego. He says, to the ego, the present moment hardly exists. Only past and future are considered important. This total reversal of the truth accounts for the fact that in the ego mode, the mind is so dysfunctional. It is always concerned with keeping the past alive, because without it, who are you? Well, that makes sense to me, that it's constantly thinking. It likes the past, it lives in the past, because that helps make up what we're thinking about in the present. I'm this person because I've done this and I've done that, and this is the kind of person I am. I'm from this family, I'm from this bloodline, blah, blah, blah. Goes on and on and on. So it likes to be in the past because that helps it feel, have an identity in the present. And then he says, it constantly projects itself into the future to ensure its continued survival and to seek some kind of release or fulfillment there. It says, one day when this, that, or the other happens, I'm going to be okay, happy, and at peace. So it needs some relief from the present because it's always thinking, negative stuff, identity with the thinking. So it projects forward into the future about some future time where it's going to be happy and fulfilled and so on. And it does that because it's incapable of being in the present, because the nature of the mind, as I understand Tolle here, is it's always based on the past or the future. To really be in the present moment, you're not thinking, you're still, you're quiet. Even when the ego seems to be concerned with the present, it is not the present that it sees. It misperceives it completely because it looks at it through the eyes of the past, or it reduces the present to a means to an end that always lies in the mind-projected future. Observe your mind and you'll see that this is how it works. So even the present we're seeing through a perspective of the past. Sometimes I think we all can understand that if we've been hurt by a certain person in the past, or we've been exposed to certain behaviors in the past, can tend to project that onto how someone is behaving or talking in the present. And there's so many ways that we project into the present. That's why when we're listening to someone, often instead of listening, people are thinking about their life and what they did or what they would do in that circumstance, instead of putting themselves in the shoes of the person they're actually listening to. We're always projecting. That's what he's saying here. And observe your mind and you'll see that this is how it works. I think that's a neat challenge again. Let's not just take his word for it. Let's observe our mind. Let's see how much we are thinking, addicted to thinking. And how much of it is based on our past? How much do we identify with our thinking? Are we able to live in the present moment? Hey, here's the last few sentences of his answer. The present moment holds the key to liberation, but you cannot find the present moment as long as you are your mind. Interesting statement. You can't find the present moment as long as you are your mind. As long as we identify with the mind and we're thinking based on the past, based on the future, we can't find the present moment, because in the present moment, there isn't all this thinking. There's just observing, experiencing, being one with, so to speak, right? And I'm finding this fascinating study because I think I'm addicted to thinking to maybe a large degree. I don't know. Fortunately, I've had the practice of meditating twice a day for many years. That helps. But today, when I was preparing breakfast, I noticed my mind was thinking. And I thought, let's just put attention in the present, what I'm doing. Putting the stuff in the blender and whatnot, be present to what's happening, not thinking while I'm doing other stuff. Does that make sense? So thanks for listening today, and let's try to bring our attention more and more. Let's notice the thinking, see if we can observe the patterns. Is there a bunch of past influencing our current thinking? Are we thinking about the future? And try to bring ourselves back to the present by watching your breathing, by giving full attention to what you're doing in the present. That brings us back into the present moment. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for another mindful moment. See you next time. Thank you for joining me for a mindful moment. Remember to subscribe to my channel for more mindful moments as they go live. Click above for a list of previous mindful moments to enjoy on your own time anytime.